Apparently, Kristi Noem is speaking in an event right now. I'll try and figure out what that event is, but let's listen in.
Just thank you for that, and know that we pray for you, that God will have his hand on you and your families and continue to bless you as you do your work. Listen, I'd like to thank everybody who's hosted me today. I know we've got a host of leaders that are here. We just met with Vince backstage a little bit and talked with him a little bit. Tony obviously has been very helpful. Michael, who is from the New York State, Chief of Department, Mark Ross, Craig Miller. We've got Craig Lally as well, and then the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police Recording Secretary Rob is here, and then Rochester Police Locust Club President Jeff is with us as well. But would you give all of those individuals who stepped up into a leadership position a round of applause for what they do to bring everybody together? Now, in his State of the Union address just last week, President Trump reminded us of what it is every American's duty to do, and that is to serve the American people. That's what the government is to do, those elected officials and those that step up into public service, is to fulfill our duty to protect American citizens, that they should come first under our Constitution and our laws, and they should be prioritized, and especially over other people who are from other countries. The Constitution demands that we treat our citizens that way, and the men and women who serve at the Department of Homeland Security, they understand the importance of that, and we also understand the importance of all of our law enforcement officers and what they do across the country to keep people safe. The department was formed after the horrific events on 9/11, and just 2 years later, as Congress put the department together with the support of the president, 23 different agencies who had a nexus and a focus on defending the homeland were put in order to make sure that they were all following the same mission every single day. So it's a very diverse department. It not only has FLETC in it that trains over 130 different federal law enforcement agencies and officers from those agencies. It also includes CBP, ICE, CWMD, which is Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction. So some of you may have gone through some of those trainings to help us detect some of the threats here in our homeland, and also some of the trainings that it takes as far as responding to fires and 911 calls in different specific situations. We have intelligence agencies. We also cover FEMA. FEMA is a disaster response agency, but it also is the agency that's entrusted to run the government on our very worst day. If we had a tragedy in this country where we needed someone to step up because our leadership was not able to, that agency would be entrusted to do that and to maintain our critical infrastructure. So they ensure that they go forward and maintain our electrical grid and our critical infrastructure such as water and systems that we rely on every day to help the American people be safe and to still have their way of life. We also have CISA, which some of you may have worked with them, which is our cybersecurity agency, which goes out and not only hunts down bad actors that would attack us on our cyber systems, but also gives us mitigation measures for how we can harden our systems. All of these entities work together to serve the American people and to make sure that we're prepared for any threats that we may face, but also respond to them in a way that honors what our ideals are. The sacred duty of our government truly is that people are entrusted to secure the rights also of all the...
Okay, so just want to set the scene for you. As you probably know by now, we just got word that the President of the United States has fired Kristi Noem as Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. Apparently, she was already set to give these remarks at 2 o'clock. She is in Nashville. She's addressing the Sergeant Benevolent Association Major Cities Conference, where she's talking about the impact of DHS and local law enforcement cooperation. But we found out that there was a live camera on her, so we're kind of standing by. We're monitoring this to see if she will say anything about the fact that the president has now fired her as Secretary of DHS, but moving her over to a different position. She's going to be moving over to Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Apparently, this is a new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere, as the president describes it. He thanked Kristi for her service at the Homeland and says that this announcement of this position and this new organization he'll talk more about over the weekend. So we are going to go ahead and dip back in as the former secretary is making comments here about DHS and local law enforcement and the cooperation between the two at the Sergeant Benevolent Association at Major Cities Conference in Nashville. We'll see if she acknowledges the fact that she has now been relieved of her position as secretary of DHS.
Chance to visit with you. I appreciate your wisdom and your advice as we continue to develop trainings and insight into how leadership can work together to make good decisions and to break down the silos between agencies so that we can work together more different, in better ways than we have in the past. And you know, we're seeing challenges across the country from judges and courts that are working to stop some of our efforts, that are looking to take away some of the protections that you need in law to do your work. And then also we're seeing some challenges from sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. In fact, after I get done sharing a few more words, I want to hear your questions on ways that we can help you do your jobs. If you're in a situation where the laws may be a little different than it is in other states, or you may have unique challenges that perhaps we could work together on to find ways to help you bring criminals to justice and to protect your community from public safety threats. America is the greatest country in the world, and it's the greatest country in the world that has great cities and great communities. Regardless of where people live, we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to go to work every day safely and to send their kids to school safely every day. Sanctuary cities do give us a challenge because it makes it difficult at times for law enforcement to do their work. And we see that many times when a city cooperates with the federal government, cooperates with our federal officers, that it is safer. In fact, 7 of our top 10 safest countries in the nation are not sanctuary cities. They're cities where the local law enforcement partners with us. They partner with our federal agencies, with the FBI, DEA, ATF, CBP, ICE, and our operations. And we've also seen across the country where 5 of our 10 most crime-ridden cities do not cooperate with us, where those that are not cooperative with federal officers will see challenges on their streets. We've seen a lot of different situations from city to city. The one thing I would encourage you that no matter how frustrated you may be with some of that we can find a way to work together to do some good work for our people. In fact, even in Memphis, where we saw different leadership, we had different parties in the governorship and in the mayor, we still were able to arrest and bring to justice over 2,600 criminals, and in a way that significantly dropped their crime rate and significantly helped those communities continue to take those public safety threats off the streets. We got over 150 different illegal sex offenders off of the street. We saw one of those arrests included a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela that was convicted of aggravated criminal assault and abuse of a child. I'm thankful that that individual is no longer on the streets because of the cooperation of those local law enforcement. We have agreements across the country called 287G agreements. I'm sure you're familiar with them, but there is 3 different models that are available. One is a jail model that helps us with some detention. The other is a warrant service officer model that is extremely helpful for us to make sure that we can take jurisdiction or of an individual who's a criminal in the safety of an environment of a courthouse or a jail, and they can be turned over to ICE so that we have the ability to return them back home. And the other model would be in the task force model, which I hope many of you have the opportunity to cooperate with us in, where we can use our different authorities to go out and go after the worst of the worst, those targeted operations that go after violent offenders and criminal offenders, and that we can bring them to justice and get them out of your city and your state. We've seen that program go from before President Trump was in office to only 135 of those agreements across the country signed, to now we have over 1,400 of them in place. And it's been very beneficial to make sure that we've removed over 400,000 criminal offenders out of this country. We've seen 3 million people leave our country that were here illegally, but over 750,000 of them were arrested and detained and removed. We'd much rather prefer that they volunteer to go home and that it can be a volunteer situation. But if not, if people are here illegally and committing crimes, we want to make sure we're able to detain them and get them out of your communities before we create more victims in the United States. I'm grateful for the work that you do because it's made a difference across this country. This last year, we've seen our murder rate in the United States of America drop to the lowest level since it's ever been recorded. And we've recorded our murder rate across the country for 125 years, and this year we broke the record for the lowest murder rate in the country, and that's because of the work of individuals in this room and individuals that we've been able to partner with. We've also taken 1.7 billion lethal doses of drugs off our streets and stopped them from coming into the United States. That means 1.7 billion people will still be with us because of the work that our agencies and our work has done. Our Coast Guard is an important asset in the Department of Homeland Security, and they've worked with us, and maybe have worked with some of you in the room as well, to help interdict those drugs and stop them from coming into our country. You know, President Trump has been working hard to make sure that he's delivering on what he promised the American people, and that's to make America safe again. In doing so, we have gone out and found over 1,500 known and suspected terrorists that
All
were
right,
let
so
into this country.
we're following this live event of former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem because we're really not quite sure what's going on here. We know that the President of the United States came out and said that she is out of a job, and that he is announcing that the Senator of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Clearly, he's got to go through a confirmation process. The president said in his tweet that that should be happening March 31st, 2026. But we're watching this live event. It was scheduled to start at 2, but then the news came out that he was firing the DHS secretary. So we're standing by to see if she takes questions, if she acknowledges the fact that she has lost her job. She's at this event in Nashville, the Sergeant Benevolent Association Major Cities Conference. She's talking about the impact of DHS and local law enforcement. And she even said, here's what we want to do for you. Here's how DHS wants to support local law enforcement so we can all work together. So she's still talking as if she is DHS Secretary. And Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice Correspondent, let me bring you into this, because is she still the Secretary of DHS until the confirmation hearing happens and Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin replaces her? Can you sort of explain how this will work?
Precisely. The Truth Social post appears to suggest that she is still the current Homeland Security Secretary, pending the senator being put in the job should he be confirmed. So there's a reference to the notion that she will be Homeland Security Secretary through the end of this month. So that means that you have this period of time where she's the Homeland Security Secretary, a bit of a lame duck, if you will. Lots of critical things going on, lots of critical decisions to be made. But it sounds like the White House and a number of other people will be very much heavily involved in the day-to-day while this transition takes place, because clearly the president was not comfortable or happy with the way she had been performing, hence the move.
You know, you think of, okay, she's taking questions now, Pierre. Let's listen in.
I've always wanted to ask her this. You sure can.
Secretary.
Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, thank you.
Given our current state of Chicago, we have no comment about the sanctuary law enforcement. More of a targeted response. The person, a lot of great Benson, extreme person. A lot of people, they just go after, for lack of a better term, commodity. It kind of like they've been there 30 years, they're not causing trouble as opposed to criminals.
Right.
I think that needs to be the focus, is more strategic thinking that needs to happen.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I don't know if you guys heard that question, but he talked about targeted enforcement. And Rob was saying how it's much more effective in a lot of, especially these sanctuary cities, where we can work on targeting those individuals who have a criminal history besides their legal status that may be in violation of their visa or work permit, but that we work on those and make sure we're going out and doing that with the local law enforcement as much as we possibly can. And that is something that we are going to continue to do and make sure that we're focusing and prioritizing those individuals and make sure that we're addressing the public safety threats there. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Tax-free pensions for retirees, law enforcement.
Okay, let me visit with him about it. That'd be great. Well, we're talking about doing some other tax benefits for other, so that may be something we could wrap into that conversation. Great idea. Perfect. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. My name is Chris Callaghan. I'm the Vice President of San Francisco Police Officers Association. First of all, I just want to say thank you for recognizing major cities and all of our police unions here across the nation. It means a great deal for you to be here today, so thank you for that. My question, local officers have increasingly been on the front lines of Homeland Security, yet we are still funded and staffed like a city responsibility, not a national one. How will DHS ensure local agencies aren't carrying federal priorities on local budgets and with local staffing?
So you maybe have some challenges in San Francisco just because of your state laws and local laws that may, although you've got a mayor that works with us very well.
That's great.
He probably doesn't want me to talk about it a lot, actually.
Please do.
But he has been cooperative, and we have great conversations and talk quite often. And many times in doing law enforcement in your city, if the federal task force is coming in, you know, it's more preferable for the FBI to lead and the Department of Homeland Security to come in supportive roles, which is what we've done, and that works very well in your city. Thank you for your focus there, too. I think the city is seeing some dramatic improvements under this leadership. When you talk about funding, we have tied a lot of our funding that we have for enforcement this year and prioritized over $1.5 billion towards 287G agreements. So we've reimbursed departments that have an agreement, or a county or a sheriff, with funding them on overtime or on benefits, some of the other things that we can do. We've also, on the jail model, obviously reimbursed per beds. If you don't have the opportunity to participate in 287G, I think your best options for funding alternatives would be through some grants that we have at the department. We have specific grants towards terrorism grants that you can do, some security grants. And there's hazard mitigation grants that are in Homeland Security, safety grants through FEMA that would be available. So maybe what I'll do is I will forward those grant opportunities to all of you so that you can share them with your departments and have that opportunity. We also have some grants specifically targeted towards special operations. So if you've got some special operations that fit into that category, we could get you some funding that way.
Great. Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes. Hi, Craig. Yes.
One police officer and one sergeant called Border Patrol for assistance, and then after that happened, he tried to fire them for asking Border Patrol to come assist them.
Oh, shoot.
Most recently, they just suspended both officers for 30 days without pay.
The Border Patrol?
No, Detroit
those
police.
officers in Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit
Okay.
police. So the one incident was the female of the house called because the husband was trying to break into the house. When the officers got there, he had a bad passport and a bad Social Security card. So they called Border Patrol for assistance.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up taking him to jail because he had a warrant outside the city of Detroit.
Yes.
The second one was, it was a traffic stop. The fingerprint reader wasn't working, so they called for them to bring theirs over there, and the person had a warrant also. So both
We're
officers
going to continue to follow this live event with former Secretary of the DHS, Kristi Noem. And we say former because if you've been watching our breaking news coverage, the President of the United States did put out on Truth Social just prior to her beginning her comments here in Nashville to all the police unions represented at this conference in Nashville, where she's talking about DHS and law enforcement and local cooperation. The president made the announcement that he was relieving her of duties and replacing her if confirmed, which apparently that is going to take place at the end of March.